Well, it's time to up anchor and get off. Here we are at Julian Bay. We're gonna go off into the open lake and start up towards Great Lakes Cruising Club's rendezvous, and we'll see how it all goes today. It's a pretty rough day yesterday coming up here, but today it looks like it's going to be a little bit better. The sun was still below the horizon when we had Freelance ready and its engine running. I pressed the easy button to bring in the anchor and chain with the electric windlass. From here on out we would turn east and into the sunrise. It sure looked like it was going to be a beautiful day out on the open lake. Vicki was at the wheel with Hal the autopilot engaged, and the restful anchorage at Stockton Island's Julian Bay soon fell behind us. We were off on a full day offshore passage to Houghton-Hancock on Lake Superior's Keweenaw Peninsula. We quickly raised the mainsail to take advantage of the gentle following wind, but we knew we could not yet turn off the engine. That was all right. We had specifically chosen this particular weather window to make for an easy downwind passage to the Keweenaw. On one such fine summer day, it really doesn't look like it, but it can get outright nasty out here east of the Apostles, especially in a strong northeasterly blow. It's something we have learned the hard way from experience. Besides, tacking against an east or northeasterly wind would make an already long trip take so much longer, and we wanted to arrive at our destination in daylight. Our course would take us past Michigan Island to starboard, and we should then be able to set a direct downwind course to the Keweenaw Waterway's upper entry. We are leaving now the Apostle Islands. It's about 5:30 in the morning. We have been up since about 4:15. Left Stockton Island, and it's a beautiful morning so far. They are calling for higher winds later in the afternoon. Right now it's maybe 10 knots, hardly any seas. It's supposed to stay fairly calm, but going to 15, maybe 20 at the end of the day, switching to the south. We'll see what happens. It's a long haul, about 80 miles, and it's one we've done quite a few times. Hopefully this time it'll be in decent weather. In long distance cruising, we usually try to maintain a speed of 6 to 6.5 knots. And it unfortunately wasn't possible under sail alone in the light air conditions we were experiencing on this particular day and on this particular point of sail. Going downwind is usually the slowest point of sail for a sailboat, and cutters are generally best suited for moderate and heavy weather conditions anyway. But doing well in heavier air is one of Freelance's attributes, which Vicki and I greatly appreciate. We prefer a boat that will take care of us when it gets rough. Anyway, our rule is that when Freelance's cruising speed gets slower than 4 knots, we motor sail at about 2,000 RPMs. Assuming, of course, we are on the schedule. If we are not on the schedule, it might be time to play with the cruising chute.
Offshore at Lake Superior here, close to the Porcupine Mountains, which we can see over here to starboard. Seas are smoothed out quite a bit. It's about 10 knots, maybe 1 foot waves. It's not giving it much drive, but we're clicking along, motor sailing, trying to make the upper entry by maybe 5, 6 in the afternoon. So it's a long haul today. beautiful day out here. It's very pleasant. Hopefully it'll pick up a little bit and we can sail more and turn off the engine.
I had the kettle and coffee on for Vicki coming on watch at 10. On these long distance days, we usually rotate a few hours on and a few hours off. It's a comfortable, low-key way to run the boat when double-handed, giving the off-watch plenty of time to read a book or take a nap. But it's really only practical to do with a reliable autopilot and GPS chart navigation and routing. But old habits die hard. I still record our lat-long speed and course every 1 or 2 hours in the Freelancer's logbook, just so I can run a dead reckoning track should the electronics fails and I have to.
About halfway between the Apostle Islands and the upper entry. It's a run of 80 miles and we are now gone 40. So it's pretty nice and it's not quite noon yet. So we'll get in there 5, 6 o'clock this afternoon. Of course, we have to also think about that we are losing an hour because of the time zone difference. But we are off of Houghton-Hancock and the Porcupine Mountains. The sun is shining, but the wind has disappointed us. We were supposed to get 10 to 15 today. We started out being able to sail for a little while, but we're now down to basically 8 knots of wind, and it's just not enough. So we decided to roll up the topsail and just keep on going on our engine. We got the jib topsail out, also called the Yankee out now. It gave us another half a knot to 3/4 of a knot of boat speed. That's helpful when you're on a long trip like this from the Apostle to the upper entry. hopefully it'll keep giving us that little bit of a speed advantage. I hope to be in about 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the afternoon at the latest in the canal, and then we have to go up to the Houghton-Hancock to find a place to tie up. So we're just clicking along here. Vicki is sleeping again, taking a nice and well-deserved nap. There's nothing else to do, so why not? And soon we'll be there.
We were slightly ahead of schedule, but still had a couple of miles to go to the upper entry when we rolled up the Yankee and furled the mainsail in preparation for getting into the Keweenaw Waterway, also known as the Keweenaw Canal. We quickly turned back on our course, guided by the upper entrance's 70-foot tall white lighthouse, which we could clearly see up ahead of us. By the way, before you get to the waterway, you should know that the colors of the buoys and lights in the canal could trip you up when coming from the west. Technically, the Keweenaw Waterway is a route from Western Lake Superior to the ocean, just like the St. Mary's River and the St. Lawrence. So this is not the usual American Region A red right return situation. Here, at the upper entry, you will instead have red to port, which has confused more than one boater. The waterway cuts about 25 miles through the Houghton Peninsula and saves a lot of time when you wish to pass along Lake Superior's south shore on a sailboat. But it's a route which bypasses some of the most scenic harbors in Lake Superior. Copper Harbor, for instance, is one of our all-time favorite places to visit. Unfortunately, we were not going that way on this trip because we were on a schedule to again get out of Lake Superior and down to the Straits of Mackinac. Unless we have a reason to stop at the Lily Pond Harbor Refuge, we usually go on for 2 more hours down the waterway until we reach the cities of Houghton-Hancock. The channel is broad and deep all the way, which allows some lake freighters to use it, but they rarely do. The largest ship we have ever met here is the Ranger 3, which carries passengers and freight to and from the Isle Royale National Park. However, some of the Great Lakes cruise ships are now planning to use the waterway, so that might change. In general, the navigation of the waterway is straightforward. The channel is well marked, so it's basically just a matter of keeping an eye on the buoys and ranges to stay within bounds, buoy hopping, so to speak. Surprisingly, there was very little boat traffic at this particular time. We know from experience that the waterway can be quite busy with sports fishing boats, ski boats, kayaks, canoes, and personal watercrafts. It's quite a playground for a lot of people. But we were now in the final stretch of our day's run, and we were greatly looking forward to getting back to the cities of Houghton-Hancock. It's always such a fun place for us to visit, and we have friends there. I should mention that Houghton-Hancock once was famous for its massive copper mining operations in the area, but today it's better known for the Michigan Technological University, which has about 7,000 students, and for all sorts of outdoor tourism. There's really a lot to see and do here, and it's also a gateway to the Isle Royale National Park. It had been a total of 15 hours underway when we finally arrived at Houghton-Hancock, just as we had hoped for. The time was about 7 p.m. Central Time, and we now had to adjust our ship's clock to the Eastern time zone. All in all, it had been a peaceful, pleasant, and fast downwind passage. Of course, a little more wind would have been nice, like what had been forecasted, but we were happy to get what we got. Our plan was to come in on a section of Houghton City Dock that is directly west of the massive double-decker lift bridge which connects the two cities. We could have gone on to the nice municipal marina on the Hancock side, but one of the reasons we like to stay at Houghton's Western City Dock is that it is right across the street from Roy's Bakery and Pasties. It is our all-time favorite bakery on Lake Superior. You should know that if you choose to come in here, this section of Houghton City Dock does not have water electrical service. It's really not a big deal for Vicki and I because Freelance's water tank is ample and our solar panels are able to keep our batteries charged. Vicki brought us in on the wharf and I stepped off with the dock lines. It so happened that our friends Tricia and Roy were there to greet us and to give us a helping hand with getting Freelance tied up. It was great seeing them again. Now all we had left to do were our usual boat chores after an arrival. Make a late and well-deserved dinner, decompress after the day-long passage. The following day was a scheduled layover day before we would push on further down lake towards the locks at Sault Ste. Marie. It turned out to be a really fun day. We had breakfast at the Copper Range Depot restaurant with Tricia and Roy, looked around the cities a bit, visited with Bill and Linda, and of course bought coffee and some tasty donuts at Roy's Bakery and Pasties.
We were up before 6 the next morning, but after looking around outside, decided to stay put a little while longer. The fog was just too much. In fact, it was so bad that a cruise ship decided against coming up the channel to Houghton-Hancock. The pilot might have been overly cautious, but the fog sure was thick. Our friends Bill and Judy of the border cruiser Jubilee had come over from the Apostle Islands the day before. Their boat was tied up along City Dock, just ahead of Freelance. We had spent some time with them yesterday and knew they planned on having a layover, so the fog didn't bother them. Nils and I still hoped the fog would lift. Our plan was to push on, weather permitting, to Marquette, which would be a day's run of about 70 miles. But for now, the only thing for us to do was to get back in our cozy bed on board the boat and wait it out.
They say that if you don't like the weather, just wait. And while we patiently waited, the fog did lift. Freelance passed under Houghton-Hancock's massive double-decker lift bridge at about 9 o'clock Eastern Time, and we exited the Keweenaw Waterway's lower entry about 11. From here, we would now follow along the coastline, including that of the mysterious wilderness of the Huron Mountains, until we reached the city of Marquette.
Thanks for watching our video to the end, and please click on like and subscribe.